It's the Growler with PD&Jay. Here to analyze for you today. From Growler bad to Jay's got stats. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Growler podcast.
All right. Welcome into the latest edition of the Growler. Paul Daner Jr., Jay Morrison. What is up, buddy? Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a whirlwind, but back. It was great to come back to Mock Turtle Soup Fest today. A little bit of stress going on in the Morrison household right now. That's why I'm in a different location. The entire house is being carpeted, so it's first day back at work. Major home renovation, but glad to be doing this.
Fresh off your trip to jail.
Yeah.
Yeah. the rock festival, of course, at a prison, which is just really as on brand as it gets for you, Jay, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, not just any prison, where they filmed Shawshank. We've always wanted to go. I knew it probably wasn't. I was supposed to go last night too, but I gave my ticket away. There's no way I can be at a rock show all day on Sunday and then be any kind of serviceable reporter for Mock Turtle Soup. So I gave my ticket to one of my wife's friends.
Not just any prison, Morrison says. I love it. It's amazing, but it's great. Off-season mode is upon us. We were all deep in it, but now we're like gradually ramping ourselves back in. But we were thrown back into the fire today on Mock Turtle Monday, the full return, which is why Jay and I have fully returned for you. This was a kind of a newsier version of Mock Turtle Soup, I thought. But there was a decent amount of news kind of coming out of it, where a lot of times there's just a lot of talk and speculation-ish type stuff about this and that. But I thought this was a little newsier in terms. So we've got a few things to make sure that we tick through in this one.
I mean, it started. You're going to hear this later. It started almost right off the bat. The second question, the first person we talked to was Duke. The second question anybody asked him was about signing a veteran corner, and it was not a standard Duke answer. And you kind of knew right away that maybe this would be a little bit different situation. And it just continued with everybody we talked to. There was some really good stuff that came out of today.
There is, and we're going to get to that here right now. We had the day open with Amarius Mims signing, so he was the last pick to sign, right? The literal last drafted player to sign his contract, but it happened. So all the worry warts out there can move on as they got that thing taken care of. That's kind of where it started, and so the Mock Turtle, we showed up. And we sat down, and for those of you who don't quite know the background, it's a media luncheon that happens every year. They trot out Duke Tobin, Zach Taylor, Mike Brown. It's the only time Mike Brown talks now all year. You also get all of the coordinators, Dan Pitcher, Lou Anarumo, Darren Simmons, all making the rounds for us today. The family is there. It's a whole thing. Tim Crumry was there today, Ring of Honor member. Talking to people, also, the family's there. It's a whole thing. They serve Mock Turtle Soup. They serve sherbet, and it's a delicious lunch, actually.
It is really good.
But it has been the same for years. That's why it's called Mock Turtle Soup, for those of you that are just catching up with what exactly it is. But you can sometimes get some news after we go. You'll get more news today than you'll have gotten in the last 3 months combined. Yes. Really. I mean, it's just been making stuff up and stupid season, really. We kind of got a little bit more into it. So here's what I was thinking. We've kind of picked some of our favorite things said, so that we'd each kind of go back and forth, pick one, and we'll talk through it a little bit. I'll kick it off. I will kick it off, and I'm going to start with it being the first time and only time that he talks all year. Start with Mike Brown, who had this to say as the topic shifted to Jamar Chase.
Do you feel confident that you'll be able to pay Jamar Chase to keep him playing with Joe Burrow?
Well, we're going to try hard. If you were listing our guys 1-2, you just did it, and he knows that, we know it, but it has to get done. We have both this year and next year where we have rights to Jamar, so maybe it'll take longer than we wish. I wish it were done, but I understand why it isn't, and it's part of the NFL of today.
The timing of it mattered. I mean, you said you would wish it was done. Would it be important to get it done before the start of this season, or would you be comfortable taking it into 2025?
I'm going to be pleased if it gets done so we retain his rights out into the future. The earlier the better, but he's a great player, and we know what he means to the team. He and his agent have an idea about that too, and then what others get paid seems to impact what he wants to get paid. There are all kinds of issues that play into this, and it's not easy to resolve, but our intention is to keep Jamar Chase.
So there's Mike Brown kind of talking a little bit through that. Now there's multiple pods where all of these people are cycled through, so they'll get different questions from TV people at one, another TV section, our writers section, and so you've maybe seen different things said across different places. That's the one that kind of we have, and I think this really confirms a lot, Jay, to me, why I like this, of what we have been saying. It's that I just don't think there's any doubt that this is getting done.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of the fact that it's probably going to be next year. Like there's not a lot of benefit to either side to push to create a deadline. Like there's no deadline pressure here. The Bengals would be happy to let him play out and do it next year, and Jamar would be happy to let it play out and the market continue to go up and do it next year if he has to. He would be the one, I would think, that would have to take concessions in order to get it done now, because he's the one putting the risk out there with wanting to get ahead of it because of injury. The Bengals are like, whatever. I mean, they're happy to do it next year. Justin Jefferson played it out. Most do. I have documented this. I've done all that research for you already. You can go read it up. Most do. They go into it and get these deals done before their fifth-year option. It sounds and everything feels like that's probably where this ends, but both Mike, Duke, both said kind of the same thing about Jamar. They're in negotiations right now. They're trying to get it done. They're working through it. It's a hard thing to do. He's their number 2 player. Everybody knows he's their number 2 player. But that's going to be a huge deal, and they have the ability to go into next year, and it's something that they're more than willing to do, and I think both sides are probably more than willing to do if that's where it ends up.
Yeah, my favorite part of that quote was the second part, that my question about the timing, and he said, "How others get paid seems to impact how he wants to get paid." You think? I mean, and you know where the Bengals sit with that. They've got a value on a guy, and
Yep.
it's if it's not highest paid player in the league, then yeah, there's some work that needs to be done, and it's not just the total annual average value. And Jefferson's $35 million, that $110 million guaranteed plays into it too. How much guarantee does Jamar want? Will he take less guaranteed to maybe jump over Justin? And like you said, he's willing to wait. His value is only going to go up. And by all accounts, they've got everybody back, all the key pieces back. And it just seems like they're poised for a good offensive year. And why would you think Jamar wouldn't have another great year? And so it makes all the sense in the world for him to ride this out. And I think it makes sense for the Bengals too, even though they would like to get it done. It's kind of for that reason where they know that he could just go bonkers this year, and you're almost forced to make him the highest paid. I still think it's going to happen, but they wouldn't really have much negotiating anything to stand on there. And I like too how Mike basically just put it like, we have the leverage. You're under contract for this year. You're under contract for next year. Just putting that out there. It's not like they don't know it, but I think he put it out there for fans that may not know it, that they have all the leverage at this point.
Yeah, nothing but time. And he said it has to get done. And I think that was kind of really the message across everybody that we talked to was like, this is going to get done. It's just a matter of timing, and there's tons of timing. Just like we every time we've discussed Jamar, and I've talked about it feeling like it ends up next year, I've referenced AJ Green. This is what happened with AJ Green right before they got on the bus to go fly to Oakland, like on the way to the opener when he signed his deal finally. And so these things have tended to go that way. Mike is going to say, some people think, you're going to get paid what other people, whatever the other people are making is what you're going to think you're one of that whole line. I mean, yeah, the Bengals aren't going to do Justin Jefferson's guarantee structure. Like they're just not going to do that. And so the idea, if that's what it's being held to, if that's what's being discussed, I can see the Bengals being like, well, we're not going to get anywhere this year. We'll revisit you next year. But if Jamar goes and has a Justin Jefferson year, if he has his career year that looks like what Justin Jefferson has done in Minnesota, which is a tick better, I think they'd happily pay him Justin Jefferson's money if they feel like that's where the value is. But you're right, Jake. They value their guy, and that's what they put on him. And those things don't match right now. They will. They will. This whole plan, the entire franchise is based around Joe and Jamar together eventually winning a title. All right. We got a lot of things to get to here. So let's go. You're up, Jay. What are you going with?
So I referenced it before. The Dax, or not the Dax, but the Duke talking about not signing a veteran corner. And
how do you think you're set at cornerback? Do you feel pretty good with what you've got? I mean, is there room to maybe go get a veteran? There's a couple out there.
At corner, are we going to sign a veteran? Is that what you're asking? Yeah. No, probably not. I like what we got there. We've got young guys that can run and cover, who have a lot of upside to them. We've got some new guys working in there that be exciting to see how they do. So do I feel like we have an immediate need for a veteran to make our team? No, maybe our numbers are down and we need some help in camp and so forth. But as we go, we'll determine that. But, I feel good about we've got a pretty good mix of veterans, guys coming into their own, and some young guys. And so we'll see how it comes together. But we've got some pretty good athletes that can run and cover and hit.
The reason I picked that one, and the reason I like it is because what I said before. It's not just the standard cliche speak, and he was very open and honest about it, and it surprised me, honestly. It seemed like it made too much sense. I've got 3 roster spots open. You could go get one of these veteran guys that probably wouldn't cost you a lot of money. I wonder how much of it is not wanting to upset the balance in the room versus they are totally in on Dax and DJ, and they have no worry. They feel that whoever wins that one, the backup is gonna be one of the best backups that they could get. And I don't know. He followed that question with he followed that with a question about what he saw from Dax in OTAs, and he was like basically said nothing. You can't judge anything off what we saw. He's like, we'll know better when we see him in training camp. He's like, I know he can run. I know he can cover. We've seen him do that before in college at this level. But as far as OTAs, he wasn't really putting any value on it. But I don't know. It seems like you go back to a couple years ago and they get an Eli Apple type for very cheap late in the process, and he ends up starting and being I think a better player than most people thought he would be. But I just wonder about that. If you've got so much youth in that league, in that room, you do have Mike Hilton as kind of the veteran guy there that can kind of keep it all together. So you're not really missing a veteran presence, but I think you're missing an insurance policy, because if something does go wrong there with Dax and DJ, and there's just no guarantee that either one of them can play that position. We've seen it a little bit, but a full season as the starter, I think you would be better off having a decent backup plan for a reasonable cost.
I totally agree. And I mean, I had this, right there the top of the concern levels. I just feel like there's a lot of hope involved.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of hope and projection involved, and there's solid veteran corners available. And I think you're right, Jay. I mean, you got to think, okay, if you do have that in your mind as a backup plan, that is a backup plan. That is in case things don't go right. And things might start going sideways before the first practice even happens. If Duke Tobin's out here saying, yeah, we're looking at a veteran corner if these dudes can't figure it out. It's projecting that, hey, we believe in these dudes. Like we drafted them. We feel like we're seeing the progress that we want. We feel like they're going to have a good season. They're going to take that step and believe in DJ, believe in what Dax can be. And that's the way we feel about it. And so to cut that off, but because to me, it just makes too much sense to add a veteran corner in there. Like and that's one thing I'm really interested about is what we see after the first couple of weeks. And if we do see Dax and DJ not exactly looking how they want to, or an injury occurs or something, how quickly they go that route and things change and the tone changes. Because if not, and it's week 4 or 5, and this team has lost 2 or 3 games because of poor cornerback play.
Yeah.
I think we're trotting these back out, right? You had chances to go find a veteran before camp even started, and you chose to believe in projection, and that's fine, man. Like I'll buy it, but I sure would prefer to have an insurance policy here in case of things start going sideways. And maybe they feel like the people that are available that they like will be there.
Still be there, yeah.
And still be there. And they don't need to put it out there or even open up the conversation yet. But I'll be damned if that shouldn't be in the back of your head. I mean, this is the surprise of the answer, Jay, where you're so used to the stock answer. Yeah. We're always looking for players to make our team better, right? Like, that's always the answer to this question. Always looking for players to make it, to the point that I don't even want to ask it. Like I was like, look, I had that on my list, and I was like, I don't even want to ask. I'm just gonna get the old, we're always looking for players to make our team better. We didn't get that. We got that. We're not looking for players to make our team better. And that was fairly surprising.
Very
surprising. It makes you think of why exactly you would say that. All right, my turn. I'm back up here. Well, I'm gonna go this direction. I'm kind of stay kind of in a similar place that I was. I'm sneaking 2 in. I'm doubling up.
All right.
I'm cheating a little bit. So I'm going to go back to back here. First, Zach Taylor on T. Higgins.
What does it mean to you that T signed the tag? I mean, I could have dragged him to camp a week or two, or maybe signed it or didn't sign it, whatever. What does that mean to you that he did that?
It is appreciated. I think that he really handled everything the right way. I've always said this, T's personal and football character has always been what we dreamed of since we drafted him. This is the first kind of time in his life where he's stuck in a professional situation, where it can be managed a lot of different ways. And I thought he did a great job doing it. Very appreciative, very glad to have him here for training camp and ready to get him back to work.
Zach, what is it about? I mean, this is the 3rd straight. I know this happens with every team. It's business, right? But you've had 3 straight years where you've had to deal with stuff like this, and it's really turned out where at this point you felt good. I mean, about when Jesse, Jonah, T have always. How have you guys been able to get from that point to the point where they've been such productive, ready-to-go members of your team?
Well, I think that speaks to how we've drafted and the types of people we've drafted. And so, again, when you're facing adversity, how you handle it 2 different ways, and all those guys you just mentioned handled it the right way. But that matters, and those are the types of people we're trying to bring in here and continue to build our team with. And because then when you get in these difficult situations, you lean on the character. They handle it the right way. They play up to their potential, and then you deal with it as it comes after that.
Why do you think you guys couldn't find a long-term deal with T?
I don't want to say one way or the other. It just didn't come together.
Yeah.
It just didn't come together, and I don't fault anybody on that. It's got to work for us, and it has to work for them. And sometimes that collides with each other, and sometimes it misses. And it missed, and we accept that, and I think he accepts that. I think his best chance for a great season is with the Cincinnati Bengals, and we're happy he's going to be here and have a great season.
How important was it that he did sign the tag and not drag this into camp, just to have him here for the start?
Well, we wanted him. That's why we put the tag on him. We wanted him to sign it, so we felt like it was important to have him here. And glad he's here, and glad he's going to be a big contributor for us this year.
So pick those two. Cheated and went 2 because I liked both sides of that. Of, you know, it was very matter of fact of Duke kind of being like, look, we knew this is where this was going to end.
Yeah.
Like, we put the tag on him because we wanted him to come and play on the tag. And you know what? We had a value on him. Noticing a theme here. It missed what their value on him was, and that doesn't coincide. And Mike kind of discussed this a little bit too, separately, talking about, oh, the pie came back. He even dropped a willy-nilly, which I'm a big fan of. You can't just be paying everybody willy-nilly. I've always felt like willy-nilly was shortened for a man. Somewhere there was a man named William Nilly. And like I just love to know more about that guy's life. They started calling him willy-nilly. And so much crazy life, so much to the point that he had this named after him. But I appreciated Mike dropping a willy-nilly. He dropped a hot dog later.
Yes.
I just love it. I just so enjoy conversations with Mike. But the point being that, like, when you're talking about there's just not enough room in the pie, the value that they had on T. Higgins, where he could potentially fit in with what they're doing, which is, by the way, paying Burrow and paying Jamar, is just, they missed. Duke Tobin said it. We missed on that. That wasn't one where we had the same view of what works for each other. And for that fact, it went the franchise tag route. And it sure sounded like some people that were pretty clear of the fact that he needs to show up here and have this great season so he can go get paid elsewhere, just like Jesse Bates did.
Yeah. And it not just missed. I mean, it was like an asteroid missing Earth, where it was it didn't seem like it was close at all, because like you said, they knew this was the path it was going to take. And I do think it's important. And we talked about this earlier when it happened, but I think it sends a really good message that he did sign it so early and said he's going to report for camp. And, you know, but Zach talked about it. It speaks to the people that we've drafted. And I don't think he's talking about Jonah, and he's talking about Jesse, and he's talking about T. Those guys are all high character guys. But I think it also goes back to the culture that he's established here and the other people they've drafted. And those guys, they might be upset, but they don't want to do anything that's going to hurt the team and reflect poorly on their teammates. Yes, it's a business, and you always got to look out for yourself first. But I think there's really something to that, where they know they've got their chance to win a Super Bowl is right there, and they don't want to be the guy that holds out and pouts and causes division and is the reason that maybe that doesn't happen.
Absolutely. And that is part of, you get these multiple years in a row, though, and it just kind of strikes you where you're like, this seems to happen. And they always find a way to this point that T. Higgins has been around the building already. He's here. He's ready to practice on day one. And we don't know what we're going to see over the next month from T. But, I mean, he immediately signed it right after OTAs. It felt very matter of fact. And it's like, man, once again, they found their way through this. Even throw Trey Hendrickson into that mix, and who's here and ready to go despite his trade. Like, this stuff happens. Guys get upset. But with this team, it has really not led into distraction mode really at all. And I just think that is, it says something about how they're able to take these things on and handle them. And T appears to be the latest. All right. Where are you going next for me?
Well, we'll stick with the extension talk and the chances of an Evan McPherson extension.
You anticipate getting an extension done with Evan McPherson sometime soon?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. It could come together. It could come together as we're talking here. It could come together next week. It could come together never. So is that a big enough window?
That's a good window. As soon as
between
anytime between now
and never. Okay. Between 10 seconds from now and 10 years from now. We'll see.
I mean, just the fact that he said it could happen while we're talking right here, that tells you how close they are. And it's not the complicated type of contract that the Jamar's is. All these kickers are right in that same line. This one, I mean, yeah, Jamar makes all the sense in the world to keep him here. So does Evan, just because of the fact that it's already laid out for you. You know, it's going to be about $5 million a year. 3 years, maybe 4, and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, maybe it happens before you guys are even watching the podcast right now. Maybe it happens before we show up Wednesday for the first practice. It feels imminent. It's gonna happen. It makes no sense for it to drag on. And you know, they make these kind of moves. I think they're going to sign some on Tuesday. They're going to announce some roster moves to add to get closer to 90. It's just they're talking to Jamar. They're also talking to Evan, and the Evan one seems to be right around the corner.
Yeah, and they've done Ted Karras, so they're checking out some of those boxes. You're right. I mean, we saw another one with Dustin Hopkins, right? I mean, it goes to the Browns deal this week. I mean, we've seen a few of these come off, and they've all looked like exactly the same. I mean, and Evan is going to get paid like one of the best kickers in the league. He'll be up there in that plus, you know, in that 5.5 range. Right now, you've got Jake Elliott, Justin Tucker, Matt Gay, Graham Gano, Hopkins, and Fairbairn are up there, but that's where Evan's going to be. We you know, he belongs there. They view him that way. He's young. He's going to be amongst the youngest of the whole group. And so, yeah, it feels pretty easy to do, inevitable that they would do it the way they were talking about it. A lot of winks and nods. I legitimately wrote that in my the story up now, just sort of like the 7 things I felt were sort of confirmed or that were learned today. And one of them was like, I don't know if this is even going to make it. I'm just typing it out here. I don't know if this sentence is going to have to this whole section is going to get deleted because it's done before this thing gets published, because it feels like it is kind of inevitable and going to be soon. So hopefully you're listening to this and you're still wondering if it's going to get done and we aren't already dating ourselves with old news here. We don't like to do that. We try to be on top of things. All right. Next bit of news, really. Again, newsier than anticipated. I'm gonna go to you with a little bit of, well, of course, we got to talk about Joe Burrow. It's actually weird that we waited this long to go into Joe Burrow, but here is Bengals head coach Zach Taylor. So we start talking about Joe Burrow, where he's at, and the preseason.
I anticipate Joe being on a pitch count when he does practice this training.
We've got plans for every veteran we've got, you know, and so I won't dive into that today on what it's going to look like, but we've certainly got plans for all of our guys. And it's more head coach being proactive, knowing that, you know, really ideally 30 days from now, our team is ready to go. You know, late August, getting ready for that first preseason game, first regular season game. And so my job is these first 2 weeks to make sure we're managing it to where those last 2 weeks we can hit the ground running.
How much did you take away and maybe changing some things after last year, dealing with the lower extremity thing with Joe and knowing how that goes on? And really not just him, but like how much that can derail a season in a lot of ways, change some of what you're doing at all? Or?
You know, we talk about that to death every preseason we've had. We really structure our practices and how we track people on the GPS to prevent those soft tissue, lower extremity thing. And really, we've been very successful compared to the rest of the league over training camp. And so it's never going to be perfect because everybody's a little bit different. It was unfortunate that happened last year, but there's a lot of time and effort being placed into conversations with Matt Summers and Joey Bozé and everybody involved over the last several years, not just this year.
Yeah. Has he been fully cleared?
Who's that?
Like Burrow, sorry.
Yes.
He's been fully cleared for contact?
Yes.
Last year at this time, we sat here and asked you about playing starters in the preseason. You said you were open to it. You didn't end up doing it with the offensive side. Are you still in that same mindset? Or?
You know, anticipating playing our guys. You know, how many games is to be determined. The schedule's a little quirky with the second and third game being kind of back-to-back. So, and we're practicing with both those teams as well, so you get good work there. So certainly do see our starters playing at some point. How much or little will kind of be dictated through the first 2 weeks of practice and how I feel about that.
Does that include Burrow?
That would include everybody, yeah.
I mean, Joe Burrow playing in the preseason. 3 career snaps. It's going to add on. I know that makes a lot of people nervous. A lot of people who want to see the bubble wrap uniform in preseason will be saying, what's going on here? But I think, it's something that they learned from last year a little bit. I think that they want to feel like they have a little bit more confidence with their going, even if it's just getting the team in and out of the huddle in a game situation and running the safest plays that they have in their playbook. I think Burrow has expressed wanting to have a little bit more of a game day feel. And this suggests that they feel really good about where he's at. And that means something as well. So I thought the fact that they're saying, hey, Burrow, everybody's playing the preseason. Burrow's feeling we're anticipating that and not saying I feel this has always been shrouded in secrecy for weirdly. It's like, well, we'll see what we do when we get there, right? It's always like felt that way. This was very definitive. This is the plan. We're doing it. Joe's playing. And considering that there is still that like sliver of what's going on with Burrow's wrist and how will it go, I thought that was an encouraging development to see there be such a commitment to that already.
Yeah, I think it doesn't just speak to how they feel about Burrow. I think it speaks to how they feel about their offensive line, that they have more trust. And like you said, run some conservative plays, but not just totally go in there and hand off. Like the 3 that he played, it was 2 handoffs and then a screen pass that Jamar dropped on 3rd down, and that's the only time he's ever played in the preseason in 2021. I think another thing, I don't know how much value there is in getting your starters some snaps in terms of getting ready for the season. Does a series or 2 really make that big of a difference? But they have started 0-2 the last 2 years. And week 2 is at Kansas City this year, and that could be a game that determines home field advantage if they're going to be as good as they think they are and the Chiefs are as good as everybody expects them to be. Yeah, that week 2 game, that could determine a lot. And so you want to have those guys just scrape off a little bit of the rust and be sharp and be ready to go. They study trends around the league, and it seemed for a while there that nobody was playing their starters, and it's kind of worked its way back the other way. And you're starting to see teams take those chances and let those guys get in and get some snaps, and just you're just not walking into the season ice cold.
Well, I mean, how much is that happening? I felt like I did feel like we were seeing nobody playing. You started to wonder if there's just going to be a league where you were never going to see starters really, and certainly quarterbacks really risking anything out there. And it seems like you're right. It does seem like it's starting to change.
Yeah, I looked it up, and unfortunately, you can't just go look at how many snaps did this guy play in the preseason. You have to go through each individual game book. So last year, the 2 Super Bowl teams, the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes played 26 snaps, and he threw 17 passes. Brock Purdy played 28 snaps. He was 7 months removed from an elbow injury that knocked him out of the NFC Championship game. Now, the other 2 teams that made it to the championship games last year, that the Ravens didn't play Lamar in the preseason, and the Lions didn't play Goff. But other quarterbacks, Josh Allen played 29 snaps. Baker Mayfield played 34, and Tua had 29. That's 5 teams that had starting quarterbacks that played, roughly 25 to 35 snaps, which you're talking, that's probably 3 series, 3, maybe 4 series.
Mm-hmm.
That's a significant amount from what we were seeing, where it was just, you're not taking the risk at all. You're not playing those guys. And like I said, the Bengals study all this. They study 3rd down trends. They look at all the league data, and I'm sure that seeing that, and then like you said, the confidence in where Burrow's at, and then the confidence in this offensive line not exposing Joe to anything crazy in the preseason. I'm not surprised, and I think it might have happened last year had he not had the calf injury. It sounded like Zach he said he was more coy about it last year. He said he was open to it. This year it seemed a lot more definitive.
I think that was a lesson that Joe took from the opener against Pittsburgh in 22 when he had 5 turnovers and all of that happened. He looked like a guy that wasn't in his rhythm for the season yet. And so that became an idea of, you know what? I think next year I'm gonna, and then calf, right? And so that was out the window. Now it becomes that next year, and certainly Bengals fans and everyone associated with the Bengals organization is hoping that they can finally have a normal camp and preseason where Burrow can do these types of things and feel good. We'll see. You never know. I mean, we're coming up on, let's see, in Thursday will be the 1-year anniversary, the second practice of the year, where last year everything went totally sideways. It can happen early. It can happen often. Things can change quickly, but I thought that was a touch surprising, but interesting to hear that level of commitment to playing a little bit more, at least some, in the preseason, even including Burrow. All right, we have there's a lot more. Jay has stories up now. Go make sure you're reading those there on Pro Football Network. I have 7 things that I sort of learned and confirmed. There's a few more items there. If you want to go read a little bit more analysis on some stuff from Mock Turtle Soup, and plus we'll have tons more up on both our sites as we get going here through camp. And we're going to have a ton more to use. So we have Wednesday is the first actual training camp practice. Of course, we'll be there at all of those. And when Jay and I are both at every practice, which should be most of them, please make sure you are following us on YouTube at the Growler Podcast over on our YouTube channel, because we're going to have some sort of quick daily recaps for you up there after every day. And so you can feel like you know what's going on without having to always be following everything. We'll give you some of our favorite things that we saw during the day, some primary takeaways, so you can be informed and then go about your regular summer life and not worry about it. We'll tell you when there's bad news. We'll tell you when there's good news. Hopefully we don't have to do any emergency podcasts, but we're prepared to fire those off too, if necessary, as always.
And we promise not to complain about how hot and miserable we are every single day.
I do not make that promise.
Not every single day. It'll happen.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be a staple.
We both have our new special stools that we bought.
I can't wait.
Oh, man. These things are fabulous. You can really sit at any level. They're really strong. They're easy to carry around. 2 dudes, 2 stools. That should really be the name of our YouTube show.
Let's do it. Let's make it official.
2 dudes, 2 stools. I don't know. I got weird trying to use the word stool in our.
Yeah,
you got to be careful with that. We don't like stool samples. Like, no one wants that. No. That's not something we should be doing. So, but we'll working title. We might try to involve stools without it making you people that are 13 at heart giggle to yourselves.
We got to go back and look at our Amazon order. Is that thing called a stool?
That's a good question. I guess it's not. I don't know. I've got it here.
Oh, there you go.
Got it here. I've got it. I went the light blue. It looks like a Roomba.
Yeah.
Before you open it. That's what I keep seeing it on the ground and thinking like that little Roomba that come up here and gotten stuck and it's about to start beeping at me. But
are you gonna open it?
This thing opens up. You're gonna make me open it here on the spot. There it is.
There you go.
There it is. I've opened it up. Then you stretch it back over. It locks in. There. It locks in. You can be at any of these different levels, and then you just collapse it back in. We'll have these.
Yes.
We can sit, discuss the Bengals with you on the YouTube channel. Make sure you're over there. Make sure you're subscribing and hitting the bell and liking and all the things you're supposed to do to be a big YouTube fan. And those won't be long. Those will be quick hitters, so you won't have to spend a bunch of time sitting there taking them in. We'll make sure we keep those quick for you. All right, but camp is upon us, so let's quickly, Jay, let's dive into a couple of our storylines that we are going to be watching as we get going through this. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, I mean, every year it seems like you're looking for the new skill position guys, but I am really interested to see what Jermaine Burton looked. I mean, he was fantastic in OTAs and minicamp, but he's not getting press coverage. There's no defense that he was playing against. So I'm really interested to see what he looks like against coverage and where they line him up. Where is he going to be a slot guy? Is he going to be outside? Is he going to be all over the place? But he was really, really impressive in the offseason stuff we've seen already. So I'm really intrigued to see what he looks like when he's out there going at it, and it's getting physical.
Yeah. Pitch was talking about him a little bit today. I thought he had a couple of good things to say about where they feel Burton's at. And it's like, it's still projection, but they're really excited about what they have seen to this point. But so much of this is needing to go see what he looks like when he's actually out there doing it. But I mean, there's just so much potential for what his rookie year could develop into.
Yeah.
And it takes time. The two dudes that are still here that are the starters here had some rough rookie camps, both of them. I mean, T did. It took a while for T to get going. In fact, T didn't really start to hit his stride as a rookie until really about week 4 or 5 in that area, right when they first started going. Remember that game in Indianapolis? And he started to find himself. And Jamar, very notably, had the drops issues and a lot of people questioning things when he was in his first camp, and then came out and tore it up pretty quickly. But, expect the growing pains and expect there to be some things to work through. But I think the possibility of what he could be is interesting, which was a point that I'll kind of piggyback off this with mine that I'm kind of keeping the closest eye on. I'm really going to be interested in what they're doing with that slot position. And that's not a slot specific conversation. That's a versatility conversation. That's how much are we going to start to see them experimenting more with moving Jamar in there? And are you playing Burton outside of him some? Is Yoshivash out there and kicking Jamar inside? Are they using motions to motion Jamar from outside to inside the slot, using that to run deep overs, things like that? Like how much differently are we going to see that affect Jamar? How much is it going to be Burton? How much are we just going to see them out there in what would be 12 personnel with Gesicki? So it's 11. And how much are we going to see, Chase Brown's name got thrown out there in the slot. And if you read my story about what they've seen from him this offseason and working with this receivers coach for this time, I mean, Drew Lieberman, the receivers coach he's working with, said that he looks like an absolute starting slot receiver in the NFL, the way he's been running routes. And they've noticed that too, where you could motion him out of the backfield and into the slot. And it's like, Pitch mentioned 5 to 7 guys could play and roll together to fill that position that TB was in when he was here. That's fascinating to me. Like, what does that look like? Is that still end up being one guy who asserts himself? Or is that they're so capable of creating sub packages that attack specific defenses that differs week to week, and they can use different. I'm fascinated to see what that looks like every time they line up. Who's in the slot? How'd they get there? Right. And how are they using them once they get going? What those personnel groupings are. I think there's a lot of new things that they could and can do. And I'm curious to see how it plays. I mean, 5 to 7 guys,
I know,
for a starting receiver position inside the other, T and Jamar, who we know will be out there. That's a fascinating kitchen to see how they cook.
And that's what Pitch said that too, where yes, you have to take what the defense gives you, but you have to be able to dictate at times too. And I think with all these guys, with all this versatility, they absolutely can do that. And I would love to see Jamar in the slot and Chase Brown in the backfield, and then they just flip. I mean, that's going to have a defensive coordinator's head spinning. Chase goes out in the slot, or Chase Brown goes in the slot, and then Jamar Chase goes into the backfield. There's just so many different things they can do. And I don't know how you work it all in camp. It just feels like there's so many variations. Maybe we're going to be seeing things throughout the season that are going to be new from week to week.
No question. And maybe you have Jamar Chase. They do a flip, and Jamar Chase runs a wheel route out of the backfield or something like that, a running back route or whatever. I mean, there's just really it's just a matter of how much time do you have in your life to begin. There's so many creative ways that you can take this on, because they do have so many versatile pieces. And Burton, in the same respect, I mean, a guy who's just a deep threat that scared the hell out of the SEC over the top, and he can be inside, he can be outside. You don't really know where you're going to be able to find him. There's just the Gesicki factor over the middle. They just have a lot of new, interesting ideas that can be implemented. And Pitch said, like, we're not reinventing the wheel here, but there are tweaks and things that you can lean into, and these personnel groupings allow them to lean into some new things. Okay, what else you got?
Punter battle. Can't wait.
Oh,
I mean, normally special teams, we sit down and we don't pay much attention. That's not going to happen this year. You can have the new kickoff rules and the way they're doing that in practice, and then this punter battle. I'm really intrigued, because I think both those guys. I mean, they drafted Brad Robbins. He didn't have a good rookie year. They're still looking for the improvement. And Darren said he's seen it already in the offseason, but he also said that was the issue last year, that he was really good in practice and it just didn't translate to the games. And I don't know that I'm going to go to the extent of bringing a stopwatch and measuring hang time, but I really do think that that's going to be a competition where it's going to be tight and it's going to be fun to watch, because it's not going to be a game of attrition and just whoever's the lesser of two evils. I really think those two guys are going to put on a show in camp and try to make that decision hard for Darren and for Zach.
Go stopwatch, Jay. Don't stop there. Go all the way. If you're going to go punter battle, go stopwatch.
I mean, it's right there on my phone. I don't have to buy a stopwatch. I can just do it on my phone.
Buy an old school stopwatch. That's the only way you get the most accurate time. You need the thumb right there on the corner. Bam. That's what you need to do. Do it old school style. See, you'll impress the scouts if you do that, because they know that.
I was just gonna say, I'll get on my Rydell coaching.
Mike Potts, go show Christian Sarkeesian. go show everybody over there. When you see him walking out, show them your stopwatch skills. They'll be super impressed with you.
My Rydell coaching shorts with the socks all the way up to the knees.
Yeah,
I will look the part.
That's it. I love that. Coach's shorts. Yeah. If you see us out there and you see Jay, ask where his stopwatch and his coach's shorts are, or say, "Hey Jay, why'd you wear those coach's short? The real short. I think they're too short." Right? So just make sure you let us know when we see you out there. We love seeing everybody out there and saying hi, and it's always good to be out and about. So make sure you shout us out. One more thing. I'm going to be tracking the entire defensive tackle. Really these two rookies that are going to be counted on to play a role and play a big part in filling what's left behind from DJ Reader. And that's a big ask. They're going to be asking these guys to play some 3 technique, some big nose tackle. I mean, doing different things. And they got to be able to do it right away, because they need them. They can't have BJ Hill and Sheldon Rankins having to play full games. They need rotations there. And can they do it? How quickly can they do it? So once the pads come on and the pushing begins, and those preseason games are going to be big. You're going to see rookies playing a lot. Jenkins and I think you're talking about McKinley. He's going to be the same way. These guys. They're going to have to play a lot, and it's going to be really important to see how well they're holding up. And if you feel like you have a liability in a position that was already kind of a liability last year, specifically against the run.
Chris Jenkins, my early pick for sack leader in the preseason.
That's not bad. That's not a bad call. Yeah, I could see that.
He's going to get the volume.
Dude, don't forget my guy from last year. Dominic Davis.
Oh, yes.
Who was my guy last year, now a preseason darling, who I thought turned to Dom when they started that, when DJ went down. They did.
No.
I'm still here for it. I'll keep riding with him. Keep riding with him the whole way. All right. Let's start wrapping things up here. And you know what that means. It's Arby's time. Jay, what do you got?
So today I didn't go somewhere that I wasn't supposed to go, as I'm wont to do. but I saw something I don't think I was supposed to see. And that was, so after the mock turtle and the luncheon and all that, Laurel Fowler from the Dayton Daily News and I were going to go down to the media room and work. A lot of the other reporters went home and did their work at home. Her kids were at home. I had carpet installers. It's like, it's just easier to do it here in the stadium. So they took us this roundabout way to get to the media room, and it involved walking past the new locker room.
Yeah.
And a couple construction guys walked out right as we walked by, and I got a peek in there. I got a pretty good look at it, and it looks really cool. It looks, just the lockers are really sleek. There was like blue or purple lighting. I'm sure they can probably change it to orange or whatever. But it has that, more of that look of a modern locker room that you see when even when we go to road stadiums, you're in the cramped visitors locker room. We rarely see the home locker rooms, but you do see them watching interviews on TV, and this looks like, it looks state of the art. It wasn't a long look. I don't have great detail on it, but what I saw in that brief second that door was open, I think the players are they haven't seen it yet. I mean, Zach said he's peeked in a couple times, but I think the players are going to react favorably, and it sounds like it's ahead of schedule, and we're not going to have to be in the cramped auxiliary locker rooms too much longer.
Yes, that was huge, because I was dreading the idea of having to do all of training camp in the auxiliary lockers. But yeah, it appears that the end is near for that situation. And man, these rookies who came in here and they were at, like, Texas or Michigan or whatever, and they're used to these unbelievable facilities, came in here and they were in these cramped auxiliary lockers, not even the visitors lockers, just these, like, what is going on? Where am I? I thought I was professional. Their minds are going to be blown when they go, oh, thank God.
That's why.
This is what it's going to look like. Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be great. I popped my head. I went out to the Jungle Jam over in Newport this weekend. Shout out to Bengal Jim and everybody over there that put that on, because they did that on their own. That was not a Bengals event. That was not juiced up by the Bengals at all. I mean, that was them doing everything through whatever, getting the sponsors, the venues, all of that work, alumni that showed up and were signing autographs. The Ixter was there, no bee in a bag. I was looking closer. I was like trying to see if Icky was there with the bee in the bag. Maybe he had set it down, wasn't wearing it. I'm a little concerned by that, but they were selling the chains with the bees in the bag there. Considered getting one myself and hanging it back here. I don't like, but just for the fact, if I could get Icky to sign my bag, like he would go, he's so used to signing, he's like, oh, I'll sign the bee or your chain. I'd be like, no, I need you to sign the bag, sir. I love it. There was a bunch of, saw some of you that came up and said hi that loved the program. So many were like, oh, it's so great having you and Jay back together. It's been awesome. I was like, I agree. Yeah, 100% on that. There was a guy. This was awesome with a Samaje Perine jersey that looked like it was game worn. I was thinking, like, this guy must know Samaje Perine, but no, just was a big Perine fan. I hope you're listening right now, and said, look, don't throw that thing away. He might be back. You might need it. You might need it. So we'll keep an eye on him. I'm looking out for you, okay? But I was just really impressed by my man who was like, Burrow, Chase jersey. What? You know what? No, I'm a Perine guy, and I'm not stopping. He's keeping the hope alive. So maybe for your sake, I hope he comes back. I saw it looked kind of like a flea market at times. People were just walking out with detached leg lamps. Like they were like a kicker. It was like a leg of like a kicker kicking whatever, and holding the lampshade on the other side, just walking out because there was stuff for sale everywhere. Someone was dressed in a full Ken Anderson uniform.
Oh my God!
Looked like from like straight out of the '81 season or whatever. No helmet, no helmets were allowed, but the full gear. Like, man, there was a lot of Bengals fever going on out there. It was a hell of an event. There were a ton of people there. They sold out a really cool venue. So kudos to everybody that was over there. It was quite a scene.
Wait a minute. Why were there no helmets allowed? They thought there was going to be a brawl or something?
Yeah, I think that was a venue thing. I think they're like, yeah, we don't need people bringing in all these big helmets and things like that. There's liabilities involved, anything like that. Mini helmets. I mean, I saw people carrying around like 8 mini helmets at once. Like it was just the line for autographs was forever. And I kept thinking, like, man, you got to really want these autographs because there was just so many people that wanted them. And there was all these alumni that were down there. I saw John Thornton, Jim Breach, a bunch. Sam Smathers and Scott Burson were there, who wrote the Joe Burrow book. Saw them. So it was a ton of people. It was just a ton going on there. So if you went, you knew it was a good time. But kudos to everybody put on that event. It was something. So, and I didn't get a leg lamp. I didn't get a leg lamp. Quite a show.
Were they the leg lamps from Christmas Story?
I have a leg lamp from Christmas Story. I actually have a bobblehead leg lamp from Christmas Story, the shade baubles.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, oh, yeah. In fact, you know what? I think that might need to get up there and replace my moose behind me. Might have to put the leg lamp up there. Once we get into December, for certain, I'll have to make sure that gets a more prominent spot.
You get Ralphie to sign it.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if it's easy is it easy to track down Ralphie these days? I don't know. I know wasn't the Christmas Story house for sale?
Yeah, it was.
One up there in Cleveland by Great Lakes. Yeah. Maybe he just hangs out there. Maybe he owns the house now. I don't know. I got to do some. I really haven't been doing my Ralphie research, so we'll see. All right. Again, we will be. Check us out on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
If you want to get some stuff from after practices to know kind of what went down that day. Again, we'll keep it tight for you. Real quick hits to kind of let you know what's been going on. So make sure you're subscribed over there at the Growler Podcast on YouTube, and tell your friends about that and spread the word. And then, of course, Who Dey Light will be back on Friday. The emergency podcast always lurks in the background in case it's needed. But next time we have a full pod will probably be Who Dey Light on Friday, myself, Mark Chalafu. So keep an eye out for that. Send in your questions as you have them to thegrowlerpodcast@gmail.com, and we will get to everything that you need. I'm sure you will have plenty once we get through those first couple of days out there at the practice fields. All right, Jay, are you ready?
I am. I'm psyched.
We've got our stools. The time has come. The season is here. Let's do it. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll talk to you next time.